Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm your host, Eliana Kernodle. Students at a Detroit combined virtual school took their online credit recovery courses 20 times faster than the courseware provider suggests in the 2023-2024 school year. This is a topic we've discussed a lot, but zooming in on a very specific example really helps paint this picture. Joining me to discuss this is Chalkboard News editor Brendan Clary. Brendan, at Chalkboard News and on Education in Focus, we love our public records requests. Through a public records request, you found some interesting details on the use of online credit recovery courses at one Detroit school. What did you find?
Yeah, so what I found was that for an 11th grade and 12th grade English language arts course, students were just blowing through it, right? So I asked for actually, I think 3 or 4 different courses, but these are the ones that were available and kind of pursuant to my request. So like there's specific language there of like, oh, we couldn't find it, so that we'll give you what we can. So basically, what I was asking for was the amount of time it takes students to complete these courses, right? The specific courses at this specific school, which is called Detroit Lions Academy. And that is like a combination, like in the 2020, I believe it was this school year, they combined a couple of different schools together. And so there was like virtual sort of schools, like an alternative school there. So that's Detroit Lions Academy. And essentially they, in the 11th grade English language arts class, 23 students completed it in an average of 4 hours, 14 minutes, and 20 seconds. And then the 12th grade class, 11 students took it, and they completed that course in 4 hours, 3 minutes, and 24 seconds. So what this is active time in the courseware, and the courseware basically logs students' active time and like idle time. So I think if you're looking at a screen, it shows that. I asked for both, and what I got back was the active time. So it showed that that's how much active time it took. So then the next question is, well, how long is it supposed to take? And what we found was that the courseware provider, Edgenuity, said it's supposed to take 80 hours of active time for these courses. So these are specifically online credit recovery courses, and that is what they recommend. So Edgenuity says it should take 80 hours for uncustomized year-long credit recovery courses. So if these were both first semester, and so it's like, this is essentially, I think that you could argue like, okay, if it's supposed to be 40 hours, they're still blowing through this. Even if it's supposed to be like, half of a year, right? It's supposed to be 40 hours. They're doing it in a tenth of the time, right? This is like not really the speed at which they're supposed to be going. And it raises questions like, how much are students learning if they're just going through it that quickly? And more concerning, and I asked for these specific courses because I've seen them online from somebody who was cheating and offering cheating services to other students through social media and saying basically, if you pay me this amount of money, I will do your Edgenuity for you or your Edmentum, like your online coursework for you. Give me so much money and your login, and I will do it and complete it for you, and then you can graduate on time. Like, so basically this is like a new kind, again, like cheating's not new. We've known, as long as there's been like quills and paper and like work to turn in, like people will try to find a way to like not do it. Like, I'm not saying like, okay, that's new, but these kind of digital ways to do it, I think are sort of novel, and that, the ease of that, of like saying, okay, like I can just pay somebody on Venmo, $60 and get my coursework done because I don't want to do it. Like, it's easier to do when, a teacher's not looking at the handwriting, right? It's like very clear that, because it's just clicking a button, right? So I think that is, very, very clear. 34 students here completed the entire course in what should have been, a week's worth of work, or maybe 2 weeks. So it's just like this kind of time frame is just very, very quick. And I asked Detroit Public School Community District about it. They didn't get back to me. Just like a lot of big questions that are raised by this sort of quick time on these courses, just because we've written so much about how students can Google questions. They can find these answers on sites like Brainly. That one is like one that's very popular. And even in some cases, you can just use an app to like take a picture of the screen, and then it'll tell you the answer because it can like automatically put that in. There's AI, there's different like sorts of messaging sorts of ways to cheat. You can find cheating pretty much any social media platform. There are people who are selling it, and it's just kind of, there's so many different ways, and it makes you think, like that social media user who is advertising these specific courses, was advertising with these specific courses, said, I can do one class in a day if it's unlocked fully. So basically, if students have access to just blow through the course material and then the assessments, then that user can get through it in one day. And so that's, that's sort of the findings of the public records request.
That's just so insane, the timing of that. I did some online classes for high school, so I know that you can go through them more quickly than a traditional classroom because you don't have 25 students who all have different questions and different things they need help with. It's more just specifically what you're trying to learn, and it's a different pacing. But I never went through it that much faster. Like, it's not usually that order of magnitude. Like, you're not going through a semester in a day. Like, that's just such a wild difference. And so there are some ways to keep students accountable in courses like this. Like, what kinds of measures are there, and do we know if any of them were in place here?
Yeah, we don't know if any were in place because I asked, what do you use? There are some safety measures that Imagine Learning, which is the company behind Edgenuity, which is the courseware provider here for the Detroit Public School Community District. They do offer something called IP blocking. So you can limit to where students can take the courses. So let's say you have like a specialized like seminar where your kids are supposed to be working on, your students are supposed to be working on the courseware, they can only do it at school. So then you have somebody who's, ostensibly proctoring them and making sure that they're not cheating, using Google, that kind of thing. You can maybe have special school devices where you can look at their screens while they're at school. But if you have that off, then you can give those credentials to another person. They can take that, and it could be, they could be in Norway for all we know, right? And so if you don't have that IP blocking on, you're not sure where your kids are taking the courses. They also have something called Speed Radar now, which automatically flags tasks for review. This is a quote from the website, when students are progressing through activities more quickly than expected. So I reached out to Edgenuity, and I didn't hear back in time for publication. I still haven't heard back about what would set that off. But that's another thing that I think districts can implement now. I think that's a pretty recent thing. Since I've started reporting on this, Imagine Learning has actually published like a whole, like, here's how districts should have like a cheating policy and like kind of prevent some of these like outside, like some of these variables from getting into the coursework. So how do we make sure that there's academic integrity going on, and have like a whole sort of litany of like solutions and sort of like, here's best practices for the district. And I was asking Detroit if those were followed, and I didn't get a response. So it's not really clear what is going on there. But on the website, it appears that Detroit students are allowed to take their courses before, during, and after school, which I would assume means that at home, at school, after, like, at home again, or wherever they are, and that they are unlocked. So that is something that we've seen. I mean, if they're going through it in 4 hours of active time, I think I think you would have to draw that inference and say it's probably unlocked, that you're not waiting for a teacher to unlock the assessments. And this kind of gets into the technical aspects of like an online course.
Well, Brendan, this is a story we've followed for a while, and we will continue to follow it as new things come to light. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at chalkboardnews.com.